Hello and welcome to Basic Song Service Guitar, lesson number 5. Let's get started. All right, welcome to Basic Song Service, lesson number 5. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Congratulations to those of you who have progressed to get to this video. I'm really excited for you guys and the contribution that you'll be able to make in your song services. Now, what I want to go over in this video is basically show you a few stylistic techniques that you can add to your guitar playing just to help it sound better. Now, just a little side note here, when it comes to adding style, just, kind of adding a little bit of pop to your guitar playing, for song service, I want to just make sure that I let you guys know to be careful. And the reason I say that is because musicians can easily get really excited about the stylistic side of playing the instrument that they are, and it can become a distraction, essentially, is what can happen. Now, of course, we want to keep in mind that the focus of the song service is to usher in the presence of God, is to prepare our hearts to hear the Word of God through the sermon that's going to be preached, and just to open our hearts. And so when you have musicians that are on the stage, and I've seen this firsthand, they're very good musicians, but they're just, ripping leads on the guitar the whole time, or the drummer's going crazy on the drums, the piano player is sliding up and down the piano. It can become a distraction, and it takes away from what the overall focus of the song service is. And so I want to make sure that's very clear. You want to have a lot of control when it comes to adding style, because if you do it right, it can sound really good. And so, side note there, keep that in mind when you're approaching this lesson. All right. So what I want to go over is just 4 different little things that I like to incorporate into my guitar playing, just to spice it up a little bit. Just to add a little flair, a little bit of extra style to my guitar playing. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys those 4 different things. All right. So the first thing I want to show you guys is a little technique I like to use that goes well with songs in the key of G. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I identify what chord a song is played in, what the root chord is, if you will? Well, the easiest way I can explain that is generally it's the very first chord in the song, or it can also be the very last chord in the song, because oftentimes the song will resolve back to the root chord. And so if they match, generally that's pretty easy. You know what chord or what key the song is in. And if not, look at the first chord or the last chord, and generally that will tell you. There's a more technical way to identify it, but just to keep things simple, I'll keep it at that for this video. All right. So if you have songs in the key of G, what you'll recognize many times is that you'll also have a C chord, a D chord, and many times an E minor chord in the song. All right. So the trick that I like to use when playing songs in the key of G, basically what it is it adds a nice sound, and it makes it a little easier to play some of the chords. You don't have to bounce your fingers around to different finger positions. Hopefully you've been practicing and getting comfortable with that, because that can be useful in songs that are in other keys that might include some of these chords. And so you don't want to push the basic fundamental techniques aside. You still want to have those locked in. But this is just to kind of add on top of it. All right. So first, what you want to do is you're going to take your standard G chord. All right. Generally, you'll see diagrams showing you to play with this finger position. Sometimes they'll tell you to play with this finger position, leaving off the pinky. However you've practiced it to this point, that's totally fine, but we're still going to adjust it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a G chord position. Basically, we're going to leave off the ring finger though. But what we're going to do once we have the G chord position in place is we're going to add that ring finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. All right, so it's going to look just like this. 4th finger is on the 1st string, 3rd fret. 3rd finger is on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. Your 1st finger is on the 5th string, 2nd fret. And your 2nd finger, is on the 6th string, 3rd fret. All right, so basically get that position in place. I find it's very comfortable, and so once you have it locked in, go ahead and strum it out. You can hear it's a really nice sounding chord. All right. once you have that locked in, then you can transition to a C. And you'll notice that that happens a lot of times in songs that are in the key of G. A lot of times they'll go to the next chord of C, all right, or C major. Now, the trick that I want to show you guys is you don't even have to move these bottom two fingers, or fingers 3 and 4. You can keep them locked in through this whole progression, all right? So we went from a G, and now we're going to play what's called a C2. It's still a variation of a C chord, but it's technically known as a C2, all right? And all you're going to do is you're going to move your index and middle fingers up one string. Keep them on the same frets that they were before. You're just moving each of them up from strings 6 and 5 to 5 and 4, all right? And then go ahead and strum that out. Also a really nice sounding chord. This is why I gravitate to playing C2s, even over Cs if I can, just because I like the way it sounds and I like how comfortable it is to play these chords, all right? So you have your G, switch your first and second fingers up a string to your C2, and then you'll notice also in songs in the key of G that they often go to the chord of D major. So same idea is you're going to move up another string, but you're going to remove your middle finger, all right? So you're just going to use your first, third, and fourth fingers, all right? Keeping your third and fourth fingers locked in place, and you're going to slide from that C2 position down or up one string. So now your index finger or your first finger is going to be on the third string, second fret, all right? Strum the bottom 4 strings. And this is technically known as a D suspended, all right? So then when you take all those variations of these chords, it sounds a little bit like this. Here's your G to a C2 to a D suspended, back to a C2, and to your G. All right, sounds really nice. And so, you know, go ahead and practice that, incorporate that into your guitar playing. One of the cool things is I mentioned earlier that E minor is often in songs in the key of G. Well, you can use that technique as well. It's just a little bit different. You're still going to lock in your fingers on with fingers 3 and 4, strings 1 and 2 on fret 3. But in this case, what you're going to do is you're going to use the remaining 2 fingers to play your standard E minor chord. So you might remember your E minor's up here. I think most people generally play with their middle 2 fingers. But in this case, because we're locking in fingers 3 and 4 on these first 2 strings, then you can use your remaining 2 fingers to play that E minor, all right? Also a really nice sounding chord. All right, and there you go. So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate how you can use these transitions in a real song, all right? So what I'll do is I'll play the song God is Greater. All right, the introduction is G, E minor, D, and then C. So I'll play that a couple times through, and you can see, for one, how it sounds, and 2, how comfortable it is to maneuver through these chords, all right? Here we go. There you go. You can tell in the demonstration, I didn't have to move too much because I'm just sliding down. That E minor's a little bit out of the way, but you're still locked in on your third and fourth fingers, and so it really helps out a lot, all right? So go ahead and practice that. You can incorporate that right away into your guitar playing when you're playing songs in the key of G, of course. So with that, I want to move on to a second little technique that I like to use when adding a little bit of style, and that is using what are called suspended chords. So basically what a suspended is you're taking your standard major chord, and you're adding a little extra note just to kind of tweak the sound just a little bit. Personally, I really like how suspended chords sound in any instrument, whether it's a piano, a guitar, whatever. I think they sound really nice, so I gravitate to using suspended chords whenever I can. Now, just a little side note here as well. When using a suspended chord, in my opinion, the best place to use a suspended chord is at the end of a line. So you have your sheet music, all your lines are written out, and generally the end of the line, many times you'll see a chord being stretched out over a longer period of time before you get to the next line. that usually gives you the opportunity to add the suspended chord in there. And then what you can do is you can do what's called a resolve back to the original version of the chord, all right? And I'll demonstrate what that's like here. So let's say, for example, we're playing a G chord, G major chord. What you can do is you can add your index finger on the second string first fret, and you'll see just a slight difference in how the chord sounds. And then I'll lift off that finger to resolve back to the G, all right? So I'm playing through a song, I'm at the end of the line, the G is held out for a longer period of time, then I can hold it, the suspended chord, back to the original chord, all right? And this goes for any standard major chord. Sounds really nice wherever you go. If I'm playing a C chord, I have my pinky here, that's going to be playing the suspended note, and what you can do is on the 4th string, 3rd fret, right under your ring finger, you add that here. It's really subtle because it's a lower string. There's your suspended, lift it off. And there's a C suspended, all right? And there any major chord, like I said, we can go to a D, standard D chord. Add your pinky on the 1st string, 3rd fret, which is basically the chord that I just showed you in the previous example. Suspended, lift it off, back to your standard G. If you want to take it a step further on the D chord, another thing I like to do a lot is lift off your middle finger so you're only playing with your 1st and 3rd fingers locked into that D position. This is technically known as a D2. So then what I like to do a lot of times, because what I have found is D chords often end the lines when the song is in the key of G, is I'll do a suspended to the root, to the D2, back to the root. All right, so there you go. You can add that, and you can pick and choose any major chord. We can play a bar chord F, drop your pinky down up one string, and then resolve. And so there's also an A suspended using your pinky. Your pinky's going to jump to the fret above on string number 2. So your pinky goes string number 2, fret 3. Suspended, root chord, all right? And so also an E chord, here's your E. Your pinky's going to go on string number 3, fret number 2, back to your root. So I use this a lot in my guitar playing when I'm just, plowing through, I'll just add my suspendeds. And it's just a small adjustment that can make a significant difference in the sound, all right? So there's technique number 2. So with that, I'm going to show you a technique number 3 that I like to use, and this is really helpful when you're playing songs in the key of E. All right. Now, just as a side note, I have found for my particular voice that I really like singing songs in the key of E. They're very comfortable. My register, I sing basically a baritone to a bass. So some of these songs that are really high are really difficult for me to sing. And so because many times you have tenors that are singing these types of songs. I'm not a tenor. I don't have a higher voice. I tend to hit those lower notes a lot easier and more comfortably. So what I generally do is I'll drop the key of all of our songs, or many of our songs, so that they're in a more comfortable range. So as a result, sometimes the songs will fall into the key of E, all right? So when I started playing songs in the key of E, I didn't like it because I found that the progression generally goes or includes chords E, of course, A, B, and C sharp minor. A, I'm not really fond of because you have to squish all your fingers together. Just my own thing, I guess. B, not really fond of because it's a double bar chord, unless you find a different variation of a B chord that you find easy to play. And a C sharp minor is also a bar chord. And so I'm like, man, I don't really like to play songs in the key of E because they're just a challenge to play and sing at the same time. But then I realized that there is other variations of chords A, B, and C sharp minor that you can play that also sound really nice and, that flow with the song, all right? They're easier to play also. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that works, okay? So you have your standard E chord. We're not going to really mess with that. Well, what you can do is if your song transitions from an E to an A chord, is all you have to do is, you might recall playing that E suspended position where you drop your pinky right underneath your ring finger. So technically it's 3rd string, 2nd fret, it's where your pinky goes, but you can lift off your 1st and 2nd fingers. All right, so I'm playing my E chord. I add that note to play the A. I believe this is considered an A2. Back to my E. And there's hardly any movement. Drop my pinky, lift off fingers 1 and 2. Just like that, all right? Now the cool thing is you can lock in this position and you can slide up 2 frets, 1, 2, and then you're going to use your index finger or your 1st finger. It's going to go on string number 5, fret 2. So this is technically considered probably a power chord. I didn't really go over that in this video. If you want to look into power chords, it can really help simplify some of the more challenging chords, but it limits how many strings you can hit many times. And so, but in this case, I think this sounds really nice. This is another variation of a B chord. Strum that through. Back to my A. I just slide my 3rd and 4th fingers down, keeping them on the same string. And then I add those first 2 fingers back into the E chord position. All right, so the last one is a C sharp minor. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep this position locked in that you were playing with the B chord, but slide all your fingers up 2 frets. And then you're going to add your middle finger, 2nd string, 5th fret. All right? There you go. You can just play the middle 4 strings. You can include the bottom string if you wish. Sometimes it just kind of happens by habit, but if you practice, you can just practice hitting those 4 strings as best you can. So this is just a variation of a C sharp minor that I find a lot more easier to play. And I like how these chords sound when played with songs in the key of E, all right? So what I'll do is I'll just give you a little demonstration of how that sounds, you know. Here, what I'll do is I'll play the song Freedom, all right? The way we play it is in the key of E. And so I really enjoy playing this song because it's a really active, lively song. And I'll demonstrate how I transition those chords with this actual song, all right? Here we go. Here's your E to your A. It is for freedom. To the C sharp minor, down to the A. So you see there's not too much movement. Then you go down to I'm free. To the A. This jumps to the C sharp minor. So there you go. Of course, you want to have your strumming technique locked in as well when you're getting into this part of the lesson. But now you can see, wow, you know, for me, it was a revelation because I realized I don't have to be straining my fingers trying to reach all these bar chords. It eliminated a lot of error for me as well, just being able to find these easier variations of those chords, all right? And so there you go. Take that and practice that as well. The last thing that I want to show you that I use in my guitar playing is what's called a palm mute. So basically you're using your palm to mute the strings or to stop the resonating of the strings, to stop the sound of the strings. So what you do is, I'll play a G chord for example. You're going to strum through your G, and using the side of your palm, you're just going to drop it on the very bottom end of the strings here, just by this bottom bridge down here. So strum, stop. All right? If you're a piano player, you're familiar with piano playing, they have what's called a sustain pedal. This kind of acts as something similar in the sense that it stops the previous chord resonating so that you can move to the next chord and it sounds fresh. It sounds like its own chord. It doesn't sound like some of the previous notes you were playing mixed in with the current chord that you're playing. Kind of clears up your guitar playing just a little bit, all right? So I'll give a little bit of a demonstration. pause. And I'm just down strumming. And in between, I'm using the side of my palm to mute those strings. All right, so there you go. So go ahead and practice that. And what I'll do is I'll demonstrate how you can use this in an actual song. So this is the song Sovereign Lord. The intro is G, D, E minor, and C, okay? And then with this particular song, it's really nice to know how to palm mute because there are hard pauses in the verses of this song, okay? So I'll demonstrate how that goes. All right, so there you go. Just a real quick demonstration. I use palm mutes a lot. And just another thing that I noticed here in teaching this is I've seen a lot of guitar players use their strumming hand with a closed fist. And that's totally fine. It's technically sound. What I prefer to do is to play with my 3 fingers open. Of course, I'm pinching the pick with my thumb and index finger. But the remaining fingers I leave open because it makes it more comfortable to drop my palm on the side of the guitar. You can try doing this, but you run the risk of not muting your very first string or the highest pitch string. And so, you know, find what's comfortable. Like I said, just a little something to add. If you're not really comfortable with palm muting, there's nothing that says you have to palm mute. It's just something to add to your guitar playing, all right? So there you go. There are just a few techniques that you can use to add some style to your guitar playing. And, you know, you can always take this even further. You can look at strumming patterns. You can look at just style techniques. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube that can take your guitar playing a lot further. Just make sure you're very careful when implementing that into the actual song service, all right? So as not to distract the people from what the focus is in worshiping God and preparing their hearts to hear from God, all right? And so take those things, you know, the chord progressions in the key of G, you know, learn some suspendeds. You can even learn some second chords. A lot of times those are pretty simple variations as well. A D2, an E2, an F2. And then you can practice the E chord pattern as well. And then implement the use of the palm mutes, all right? And so I use these things quite a bit. And quite honestly, I find it a lot more fun to play guitar when I can, you know, make it sound a lot nicer and I'm not hurting after a song service because of all the different chord progressions that I'm playing, all right? So you guys take that. Thanks a lot for watching. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to bring this video to a close. I want to mention this is the last guitar lesson video. I'm limiting all the basic instrument videos to 5 lessons in hopes that it gives you guys enough to be able to play in song service. If anything was not clear, if you're struggling in any particular area, you're welcome to reach out to me. Shoot me an email at worldcfmmusic@gmail.com. You can also visit the website for some extra resources. That's worldcfmmusic.com. But I thank you guys for watching, for sticking it through these videos. I greatly hope this has helped you guys out. I'm praying that this has helped a lot of you out. You know, keep learning, keep practicing. Even though this is the last guitar lesson, that doesn't mean I won't revisit guitar in some way, shape, or form in the future. But this is just the end of the basic fundamentals that you can use to play guitar, all right? So thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing. Those of you who have spread the word, who have told other people about it, I thank you as well. Thank you guys greatly. I really appreciate it. And so with that, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.